Hey guys, what is going on? Voodoo 51292 here, and today I am making another Voodoo's Verdict, or game review for you. And this is going to be about a game that is, quite a few years old at this point. It came out in 2011, so for a lot of you, this review is not going to serve much of a purpose as a review because you already know about the game, and there's been reviews out for 3 years. But a lot of people do like to watch my reviews just to hear my opinions on a game, not necessarily for the review aspect. But there may be a few of you out there who the sequel to this game just came out this year, and so some of them might be thinking, the game looks really cool, and they want to jump into the series, and they're thinking they should start with the first one, and they actually do want a review of the game. So the game we're going to be talking about today is an interesting one. It is Dark Souls. I'm going to be reviewing the PlayStation 3 version today of Dark Souls, which will come into play later. So, you've probably heard a lot about this game, and again, most of you probably already know about this game because it's been out for so long. But, Dark Souls, there's like some leftover shrink wrap on it. Oh well, I'll get that later. What is the game, and what does it entail? Dark Souls is a game that's pretty much unlike any other game out on the market. It's a game that throws you into the world. You have a little intro area, and then the game throws you into this open world environment and basically gives you nothing. They give you no directions, they give you no hints, they give you really no idea of what you're doing, how to do it, where to go, when to go, or anything like that. It's completely up to you. You're on your own. It's a game that is going to require a lot of trial and error. It's a game that you're going to die a lot. You're going to die more in this game than you die in any other game because it is a game based on trial and error. Dark Souls is a third-person RPG, fantasy RPG. And in that aspect, it is very similar to other games like Skyrim and Dragon Age and games like that, to where you can pretty much make your build however you want. Now, it is pretty complex. There's a lot that goes into building your character, but you can, again, make your character whatever you want. You can make him a tank warrior. You can make him a, magic user. You can make him sort of a thief character, a battle mage, good at both attack and spells. So pretty much just like most fantasy RPGs, you can customize your character and pretty much, make your character who you want to be. Do you want him to have a lot of health and be able to use heavy armor, or do you want him to wear lighter armor, and be more of a quick, sort of agile character? So that's the type of game it is. Like I said, it is open world. They throw you into this game. There is a main kind of hub area to the game, and then from there you pretty much just venture out on your own trying to figure out where and when to go and how to do what you're going to do. The enemies are basically what they are, meaning that they do not level with you. The enemies just are what they are. There's also no difficulty setting in the game. The game is one difficulty. It's Dark Souls difficulty, and it's pretty damn hard. But since it's open world and since enemies just are what they are, you can stumble into an area that is way over leveled for your character. You cannot fight anything that's there, and you will get killed very quickly. So there is kind of a progressive path that most people will follow and will find as you go, it's not too terribly hard to figure out where to go and stuff once you get the hang of it. As you walk around, you'll find that a lot of areas in the game actually interconnect with one another. You'll find shortcuts that lead to other areas, making your travels easier. And then later on in the game, as you progress the main story, you will get an item that will allow you to fast travel. Now, what the game is sort of based around is this idea of souls. Alright, the game is called Dark Souls, and souls are the main thing that you're trying to get in this game. Every time you kill an enemy, you acquire souls. Obviously, tougher enemies give you more souls. Bosses give you tons of souls. And souls have multiple uses. They can be used either to level your character up. So basically, to level up, it'll be a certain soul requirement for you to have, and as you get higher in level, it will require more and more souls to level up. And when you level up, very similarly to other RPGs, all you do is choose to boost one of your parameters, such as strength or dexterity, or vitality, which is life, your endurance for stamina, and then there's other things for like magic users and stuff like that. And so again, this comes into building your character and the RPG element of it. You can decide how to level your character and what stats to level your character. But also, souls are the currency of the game. As you walk around the world of Dark Souls, you will find certain merchants that can sell you all sorts of different things, and you use the souls to buy items. So souls are very important. What really makes Dark Souls difficult is the following, alright? There is no such thing as checkpoints or anything like that in Dark Souls. Dark Souls is based around this system of bonfires, and they are just these little fires with swords stuck in them that you will find as you walk around Dark Souls. They are few and far between, but these bonfires act as your checkpoints. When you find a bonfire, you can rest at the bonfire. When you do that, you will regain all of your Estus flasks, which are your healing items in the game. They're basically just potions that you drink for health, and you have a certain amount of them. There's a way that you can actually do something to the bonfire to get extra Estus flasks later in the game. And, well, actually you can do it beginning in the game, or something you can get later on that you can get even more Estus from them. So it will recharge your healing items. Now, while you're resting at the bonfire, that's when you can level up, etc. You can attune magic at the bonfires, stuff like that. As you go out in the world, though, when you die, you will be teleported back to the last bonfire that you rested at, which, because they're so few and far between, and some of them are hidden, you really have to look for them. You might have to redo a big portion of the level, which is a problem because when you die or when you rest at a bonfire, every enemy, every common enemy, so everything except like mini bosses and main bosses, will respawn, and so you will have to fight them all again. In addition, when you die, you lose your souls. All the souls you have on you, you lose, and you're teleported to your last bonfire. Now you have one chance to recover those souls. Right where you die, there will be a green mist on the ground, and if you get to the area that you died in and pick up that green mist, you will revive and get all of your souls back and all of that. However, if you die again before you get to the souls you lost, they are gone forever, and basically every time you die, whatever souls you have on you is what's dropped. So, and the previous souls vanish. So it can be, that's really where the difficulty lies. Not only because the game's difficulty is hard, enemies do a lot of damage to you. There are, when you're exploring, there's a lot of perils that you can fall off of certain things, different things like that. So just playing the game is difficult, but there's not a lot of checkpoints, and you lose your souls when you die. It's also a game that auto-saves every few seconds. So there's none of this like other games, oh, well, I'm not sure what this item does, let me try it, and if I don't like its effects, I'll just reload my save and not use it. It doesn't work that way. Whenever you do anything or use anything or whatever, the game saves over your save file. You only can have one save file for a particular playthrough, and the game will save over it every few seconds. So basically, whatever you do in Dark Souls is permanent for your playthrough. If you don't like what you did, tough luck. So from that aspect, the game can be very difficult. Like I said, there are a ton of enemy types in the game. I mean, you will be fighting new enemy types all the way through the end of this game. Just every different area has different enemies, and it's really neat. And obviously, you'll have your normal enemies, your kind of grunt enemies, your medium enemies. You'll have mini bosses, and you will have main bosses. All the main bosses in this game are very different. They are all, none of them really, no two are really alike. They're of all different sizes, of all different health levels, different attacks, different environments you'll fight them in. The boss fights are really cool in this game. And, when you kill them, you will get tons of souls. Sometimes some of the bosses will drop a special soul, a special boss soul, and you can actually, that's where Another big part of the game comes in the smithing, the blacksmithing, because there are so many different things you can do with weapons and stuff. You know, just like any other RPG, as you wander around the world of Dark Souls, you will find items. Enemies, when they die, will drop loot sometimes. There's hidden items and chests and things where you can find all kinds of different usable items, and also armor and weapons and shields and stuff like that through the game. And with the blacksmithing, you know, with the use of certain items, you can improve weapons, you can improve armor. There's several different paths you can take with weapons. If you find certain items throughout the world, you can make your weapon an elemental weapon, like a fire or lightning weapon. You can make a weapon a divine weapon, which helps against the undead. You can actually make boss weapons. If you have a particular type of weapon and you upgrade it to its max, if you keep the boss soul that you got when you killed that boss, you can use it and upgrade that weapon into a boss weapon, like the same type of weapon that that boss used, which is pretty cool. And, you know, again, it's up to you how you want to upgrade your weapons, and each weapon has its own, you know, requirements for like, you know, a certain strength requirement or a certain dexterity requirement that you have to be a certain level in to wield the sword effectively, or sword, or whatever it is. And weapons will scale differently with different stats. So some weapons, their damage will scale up better with dexterity, meaning that when you level up, if you want to use that weapon, you should be leveling up dexterity, because the damage of that weapon will go up significantly with each level of dexterity, but not so much with something like strength. So there's just stuff you have to pay attention to. As I mentioned before, there are several environments in this game. I mean, the environments are extremely varied. They're all really neat. They all look really cool. They have their own vibe, their own atmosphere, and again, for the most part, it's pretty much open world. You can go where you want as long as you can kill the enemies. There's certain areas that you cannot get to until you progress the story and it unlocks the areas, but again, at one point you have the ability to actually warp between bonfires, which becomes very useful for you, so you do not have to walk manually everywhere you want to go anymore, which is very, very useful. And that's sort of the gameplay of Dark Souls. I mean, it's more or less walking through areas and eventually getting to bosses of said areas and killing them, and unlocking new areas or doing whatever you need to do. But the game is mainly based on just exploring, leveling up your character, and going through these areas and fighting bosses. There's no hand-holding in this game. This game, like I said, does not tell you where to go. It may drop a hint very rarely, but it doesn't really tell you where to go. It doesn't tell you too terribly much about the items or anything. You kind of have to read the item descriptions. Some of them will tell you what they do. Some of them are pretty cryptic, and you just kind of have to figure it out. But that's pretty much that. Now, there is a really cool online mechanic to this game that I did not start my... Oh, I just start my stop. Can't speak. Start my stopwatch. Good. I thought I hadn't done it. There's a cool online mechanic. So if you're playing over the internet, first thing that you'll notice is when you're playing is there'll be orange messages on the ground at certain areas, and these are messages that are left by other real players playing the game. Some of them are developer messages, but most of them are from other people playing the game, and they will leave messages that most of the time will be helpful. Some of the time they're leaving them there on purpose to try to get you killed, but for the most part you can pretty much figure out where those messages are. You know, sometimes just on the edge of a ledge you'll say, jump here, and you can look down and clearly see that if you jump there you'll die. So it's pretty easy to avoid the ones that are trying to trick you, but most of them are pretty helpful. They'll hint at hidden areas. Sometimes chests can be fake. They're not really chests. They're enemies that look like chests. If you try to open them, they will attack you and do a lot of damage, and so sometimes, most of the time, you'll see a couple of orange messages in front of a chest, and you'll read them and they'll say, be wary of a trap, stuff like that, and then okay, I know that this chest is a trap, don't open it. It can be very useful. You can't just write whatever you want. It has like a pre-prescribed formula that you can choose certain phrases to put together, because you can't just write whatever you want. But you can also leave messages yourself for other people. You can rate messages. If you find a message helpful, you can rate it up so that it gets seen by more players. In addition to that, there's a very cool cooperative mechanic or a player versus player mechanic that goes on in this game. There's an item in this game called humanity, and you spend most of the game being what they call undead. If you use a humanity at a bonfire, you can actually reverse your hollowing and become human again. When you do this, you unlock the co-op and the PvP, or player versus player, aspect of Dark Souls. So the co-op aspect, if you are having a really hard time getting through a level, or you don't know where to go, or you cannot beat a certain boss, if you turn human, you can actually summon up to 2 partners. And these are real online people who are playing the game. Sometimes you can summon NPCs, depending on the situation, but you can mainly summon other online players to come into your game and actually help you to get through a certain stage. And you can summon up to 2 people, like I said. But while you're human, you can also be invaded. And that means that another player online can invade your world, and you will have to fight that player one-on-one, or if you have some summons, the summons can help you fight that player, and you will battle each other, and whoever wins gets some items out of it and gets souls and that kind of thing. It's a pretty neat mechanic to the game. It says, well, hey, you're human, you can get help, but the downside to that is you can be invaded and you'll have to fight off another online player. When the bosses, the players can help you go fight bosses. If you're a player who is assisting another player, meaning you're doing co-op with that player, if you successfully defeat the boss that area, you get some items, you get some humanity, I think, and some other things. And if you're the player who summons, obviously you get through the boss, you get through the area you were having a hard time with. So it's really up to you. You can either play the game and say, no, I'm not going to get help, I want to play this game completely by myself, which is what I set off doing. I actually completed the entire game by myself without summoning until the final boss. He was so hard, I fought him like 15 times and died every time. I tried everything I knew how to do, and I said, I just can't beat this guy. So I summoned one other person for the final boss to help me, and we went in and killed him on the first try. So you can either do that, or you can say, well, I'd like to get some help through the game. Now be warned, if you do summon 2 people to help you, it kind of gets a little broken to where you can just kind of stand there and the other players will basically play the game for you. They'll basically kill everything, they'll kill the boss, you won't have to do a thing. So if you're okay with that, then that's fine. But if you actually want to play the game or something like that, either don't try to not summon, or if you have to summon, only summon like 1 person. That way you can still actually participate and feel like you contributed in beating that particular area. So that's cool. Again, you can be the invader, you can invade other people's world, or you can leave summon signs for other players to summon you into their world and you can go help them. Other than that, there's all kinds of other stuff in the game. You can join covenants with different figures throughout the game. You can join covenants that give you certain abilities, or you'll get certain items for joining them. All that kind of stuff. So, really cool game, alright? But I'm gonna give my thoughts on it, tell you what kind of people are gonna like it, what people aren't, and then give you my score. So, this is a game that is gonna challenge you, alright? It's not a game that you're gonna pick up and play just casually, like, oh, I want something, I want to just come home, relax, sit there, play a quick game, kill some dudes. Not this type of game. This game requires a time investment. All right, I think my playthrough clocked in at around about 33 hours, but I did do a little bit off of recording, grinding and just a little bit in certain areas, or just progressing through boring areas that people didn't want to see on camera. So my playthrough of this game was probably around about 35 hours long for a first playthrough, and that's about what you can expect if you're average at the game like I was. I was average. I wasn't great, but I wasn't terrible. If you're worse at the game, it'll take you longer. If you're better, obviously it won't take you as long. And it's a game where certainly, like I said, it requires patience. It requires you to think and play it smartly. But for me, this was welcome. I really enjoyed the challenge that Dark Souls posed, because so many games now, it's just like you play them, they don't offer much resistance, and then when you beat them, you're like, oh, ho hum, I beat another game. Kind of like what I felt when I beat Infamous Second Son. I was like, okay, pretty good game, not great, not too challenging, a couple of annoying parts, okay, great, I beat another game, time to move on. This game is like, You play it, you're terrible when you begin, you have no idea what you're doing, but you level your character the way you want, you find better armor, better weapons, you figure out strategies, how to play, how to beat certain bosses after you die to them a few times, you figure out where to go, and then you feel accomplished when you do shit in this game. You feel like you actually learned and got better and did something good when you beat tough bosses or when you figure out where to go or something like this. When I beat this game, I felt really good. Now, obviously, I was a little disappointed because I had to use a summon, and I wanted to beat the whole game without doing it, so I was a little disappointed about that. But when I look over the whole course of the game and see that I never used a summon except for that, and that I didn't really look too terribly much stuff up about the game. This is a game, by the way, that you're probably going to have to look some stuff up. And there's no shame in doing that, because some of the stuff in this game is overly cryptic, which is definitely one of the negatives I have to say about this game. There are some things in this game. I understand they wanted to make it hard, didn't want to hold your hand. But there's some things in this game that are just way over the top cryptic. Not too terribly much, but some things. Like, there's this one boss toward the end of the game where the first time you see him in a room, he's invincible. He kills you instantly. Unfortunately, the game allows you to go back into that room with him where he's invincible and he will kill you. And somehow you're supposed to figure out that there's an alternate path that you have to take through a whole different area of the game. This area of the game has invisible platforms that you're supposed to see and be able to walk across invisible platforms to get down to a different area where you can fight the boss and actually hurt him. But when you're in that area, there's an item in the room that until you break it, he's invincible. And you're supposed to figure all this kind of stuff out. That kind of stuff I had to look up because I just didn't know. But again, it's up to you. You can try to get through this whole game without looking anything up, but if you look some stuff up, there's no shame in it, because some stuff is way over the top and didn't need to be in the game, because the game is hard enough. The game is not explanatory very much at all anyway, so there's no need to make things extra cryptic just to freaking piss people off, alright? They could have just left it how it was and didn't put overly cryptic stuff in the game. But it's a great game if you're prepared for this style of game. If you take it for what it is, you come prepared to play this game, prepared to die a lot, prepared to fail countless times, but understand that when you do get better and you do succeed, it's going to feel amazing. You're going to feel really good. You're going to be like, man, I worked on that. You know, I was bad when I first started, but now I'm awesome. Like, it was a cool feeling. There was this one area in the game called Blighttown that when I first went through it was an insanely hard level. But I had to go back to it later in the game to get down to one of the final bosses. And I ran through it the second time, just slaughtering everything. I knew where to go. I slaughtered everything in one hit, got through the whole area in like 5-6 minutes. Because I was a lot higher level, and like I said, the enemies don't level with you, they stay where they are. So I was able to go back into Blighttown, slaughter everything, and I just felt great. I was like, man, you know, this was so hard the first time, but I built my character well. I learned better how to play the game, and now I'm coming through here just wiping everything out. So understand that. It's an investment of time, it's an investment of patience, but if you really, really like video games, and you like that idea of getting better at a game, and, you know, really putting time into a game and thinking about it, you're going to get a big payoff when you play Dark Souls, alright? My main complaints about the game, like I mentioned about the overly cryptic stuff that didn't need to be there. I still feel that way. I think it held the game back in some aspects and frustrated me that I had to look some stuff up, because some of this stuff I honestly don't think I would have ever figured out had I not looked this kind of stuff up, alright? But like I said, it's not too bad. There's not too many instances of overly cryptic stuff. Like I said, that one boss is where most of the crazy cryptic stuff is. It's mostly around that one boss, and there's a couple other things here and there, and some of the bonfires, like I said, are really hidden cryptically, and I just don't know if I agree with that, because bonfires are so critical in the game, because there are so few of them, and because they serve as checkpoints, and you have to replay levels over and over and over again. If you're so far into a level you haven't found a bonfire because it's hidden behind a fake wall. Yes, that's the case sometimes. Sometimes there's a wall that's false, and you know, if you hit it, it will open up and there might be a bonfire in there, but because you missed that, if you die you have to replay an entire level, like 10 minutes or more of gameplay every time you die. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, so I think that kind of holds the game back. The other main complaint I have about it is I think console specific on the PS3. The frame rates for this game in certain areas are so bad you can't tell what the hell's going on. There's one area of the game that I talked about called Blighttown. The frame rates on PS3 drop, I'm not even kidding, to like 15 or lower frames a second. It's almost like a slideshow. And it's really unacceptable, especially because Blighttown, the first time you go through it, is so damn hard and confusing. Now throw on top of it the fact that you can't even see what the hell's going on, because the frame rates suck. That's the worst place in the game for frame rates is Blighttown. Other parts of the game, it's not so bad. It'll pop up every now and then. It's really not overly bad, but in Blighttown, it's atrocious. And I have to say, like, they should have figured it out. Okay, I've seen games run on PS3 that look a hell of a lot better than Dark Souls. Dark Souls doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look great by any stretch of the imagination. If Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3 can run on the PS3 and not drop frames, Dark Souls should be able to do it. Okay, I know the PS3 is hard to code for, I understand that. They screwed up, they made it ridiculously hard to code for, but it can be done. They just didn't put in the time or the effort from Software or Bandai or whoever actually developed the game. I think From Software actually developed it. But whoever did not put the time into the PS3 version to fix the frame rates. And it's a problem. It definitely holds the game back, and that's a big complaint I have. Also, the camera is not the greatest. Like, sometimes I keep checking my time so I don't go over. Sometimes in areas, in confined areas, the camera will freaking freak out. It'll go to like a floor above you, and you're looking at the ground, and you can't see your dude. And it's really annoying in closed spaces, the camera. And also the bodies in this game, the corpses have like ragdoll physics. When you kill them, they're just limp ragdolls, which is kind of funny, except that sometimes when you kill big enemies, like, and you're running, they'll get stuck to you. Like, the bodies will get stuck to you, and they're flailing everywhere, and you can't see where the hell your dude is. Because all you see is this freaking dead body flailing all over, stuck to your body, and if he's bigger than you, he completely consumes your character, and you can't see what the hell you're doing or where you're going, and it can lead to death. So, those are some complaints I have about the game that hold it back, I feel. But overall, it's a fantastic game. Like I said, it is a game that requires patience. I think my total death count came out to be about 213 deaths in the game, give or take probably five deaths here or there, because I might have forgotten to add one or overcompensated later. So about 213 to 215 deaths total in this playthrough. So I died a lot. But tons of hours of content. There's a New Game Plus mode where as soon as you beat the game starts over right away. Back in the entry level, you get to keep everything you had when you beat the game the last time. Your levels, your weapons, armor, all that stuff, but enemies are now harder, they have higher HP, but they drop more souls. So you can continue to level your character, you can try out different character builds, try out different weapons, and all that kind of stuff in New Game Plus. And again, with how many different characters and how many different classes, like all these RPGs, you can go back and have multiple playthroughs because you can make multiple characters, and that's a very common thing to do on Dark Souls. Add that in with all the different environments, the really cool bosses, the cool online mechanic that I think really adds something to the game. Dark Souls is a great game with just a few things that hold it back. So my final score for Dark Souls on the PS3 is a 9 out of 10. I think it's a really, really great game. It's not, the gameplay and the stuff around, like, the stuff around the game is not necessarily that different than any other fantasy RPG, but the environment, the atmosphere of the game, the difficulty, all that kind of stuff makes it like no other game you can find on the market. It's a great game if this is your cup of tea. If it's not your cup of tea, you're going to hate this fucking game. You're going to say, why would I play this, and trade it in immediately. But if you're prepared for it, if you're ready to die a lot and fail, with the outcome being that you will get better and eventually feel satisfaction and fulfillment for beating a tough game, and you're looking for lots of hours of content, tons of unique enemies, tons of cool bosses, a really good RPG, the leveling system, and all that kind of stuff, check out Dark Souls. Don't miss it. 9 out of 10 on the PS3, and if it had fixed some of the problems, it could have been a lot, even a higher score, like a 9.5, if they had just had smooth frame rates or, you know, took out some of the overly cryptic stuff. But all in all, 9 out of 10 for Dark Souls. I will be playing Dark Souls